Today on the Slanted Lens, we're on location. We're going to check out our new CV600. It's a great color meter. We're going to use it to color balance our lights with these lights that are all over the place in the room as we do an interview here with Wilbur Richardson. Don't miss out on this great giveaway, a complete studio package from Dynalite, an A6, a softbox, and a speed ring. Get over to theslantlens.com. It's $1,000 worth of stuff. Hi, this is JP Morgan. Today on the Slanted Lens, we're out here in Chino. We're at a great airplane museum. It's called the Planes of Fame. We're here with Wilbur Richardson. He's written a book called Aluminum Castles. Our goal today is to use our color meter, the CV600, and we're going to color balance the light in this room, and it's all over the place. We've got mercury vapor, we got a little bit of sunlight coming in. We're going to use this to get a good color balance as we do our interview here with Wilbur. Most of all, we want to hear what Wilbur has to say and kind of his experience, World War II experience. We're going to let Wilbur take a break while we take out the CV600, figure out how it works, figure out how we can use it to balance the lights in this room, and then we're going to come back and do our interview with him. Color meters scare people to death. It shouldn't. This is very simple. You take a reading, it's going to give you the color. Then you just decide how I want to match to it, or do I want to make the lights match to me. So let's turn this meter on and see what we've got. First off is our basic screen. This is probably the one you're going to use the most. This has 4 different fields here. You can use these any way you choose to. If I hit CCT, which is just basically our color temperature reading, I can choose any one of these items from the menu here to be in that slot at the top. CCT makes the most sense because that's the one you're going to use the most often. But once you've made that decision, you go back to your home, and that's going to give you your CCT reading at the top. Then I have CRI, if you want to just hit how well does this light render color, CRI index. Then we can do foot candles. I mean, you can get to choose whatever you want in this area here. So if I decide, you know what, I want to put this on an R9 so I can see how well this light's going to give me a reading when I'm looking for reds, then that's going to show me how well it's going to render red for me from a scale of 1 to 100. So this is the main menu. This is the one I use the most, the CCT. It just really gives us all the things that we need to. And you can choose the ones that you work with most to be able to fill in those blanks there. So go back to our home now. We have what's our CRI, which is basically a look at CRI. If I take this off here, take a CRI, and it tells me that in this room where I'm standing right now, that the CRI in this room is about 88%. Got a lot of different stuff going on in here. It shows me each one of the colors. It's, again, I can tell these overhead are some kind of LED or some fluorescent mix because it doesn't render the red very well. This is not rendering the red hardly at all. The R9 reading is way low. Go back to home. We have the ability to do our flicker, which is fabulous. If you're using lights, you're wondering if they're going to flicker, and sometimes you get rolling flickering with some fluorescence and other things. You take a reading here, and it'll tell you what the flicker, how the light's going to flicker. It takes a minute because it's got to render, it's got to take a reading several times to see if there's a flicker going on. So it's going to go through that process to be able to see if there's a flicker in the room. And once it's done, it's going to say, it passes. There's no flicker here that's going to affect us at 24 frames a second. So it gives us a flicker reading. So going back here, so it's just a pass or fail. We get a spectrum, color spectrum. So if we do this, I know we're going to see that the reds are low and the yellows are up, which is absolutely the case. So it shows us in that graph where the colors are going to fall on the spectrum. Going back to home, we go into our filter. This is my favorite because in the filter, I can go into here under the formats and I can say I want my options, and right here at the top, I can decide what filter brand I want to put in. So right now I've got Rosco in there, but I can choose to put in Lee, I can choose to put in Fujifilm, all the different makers of gels are in there, so I can choose the one I'm going to use the most, which is Rosco Cinegels for me, and I put that in my calculation. I go back to my home, and now if I decide my target is 5300 degrees, this is the one that we used when we corrected our light in the room, 5300 degrees. I hit my light, my reader here, reading here, and it tells me I need a 3204, which is a half blue, to be able to correct this to 5300 degrees. So it gives me a reading, and then it tells me what gel I need to be able to color the light to the color temperature that I've chosen. So you choose the color temperature, and then it tells you the gel you need to get there. So fabulous. That's one of my absolute favorite on this. We have the second menu here, and in the second menu we've got exposure, which is a great, just a regular, like a spot meter, reflective meter. So you can either do this in mode where you're doing it, where it's telling you what your aperture is going to be, or you can tell you your shutter is going to be, or you can put in, I want this shutter and this aperture, what's my ISO? So there's a lot of options with the meter. We won't go too far in the meter. That's kind of another story all in and of its own. So then we have our CIE reading. You can see the horseshoe there and see where the colors fall in that spectrum. And then, of course, we've got our browser here, which we do have a card you can put in the meter. And in that card, you can store data on there if you want to store 2 or 3 different lights that you're reading on. And that makes it really easy to work there as well. So that was quick. That was quick. The one thing I thought was interesting here, and I just have to say this really fast, is that in the exposure mode, you can go, you can choose these between shutter speed or aperture. And then, of course, you can go to a continuous mode, which when you're shooting sometimes film, you say, my actor's going to walk through this area. You can take the meter and you can just kind of pan it through the area the actor's going to work. And that will allow you to say, oh, my exposure's going to kind of fall within a range that I find acceptable as I walk through this area. Or, oh my word, it fell right off the cliff right here. It got really, really too dark. Got to open this area up a little bit. Okay, let's see how we set this up with Wilbur. And we got an airplane firing up behind us, but that's okay. So I know my key light's going to be here. I'm always going to break the key light slightly behind him, because then the shadows fall to the camera side of the image, which is what I always want. And from the behind now, I'm going to lighten up this dark side of his face, and I'm just giving myself a little bit of rim light. So there's how we set the lights up, and there's how I got everything into place before we start. But now the issue in this room really is color. There is so many different lights in here, and there are so many issues going on that it's so hard to just start to guess on what the color is going to be. So the CV600 really makes that kind of the gateway to be able to solve those problems quickly, change your color out, and be able to shoot ahead. So here's the first way to solve the color problem in this room. First off, the CV600 is not an instant meter reading. It's a reflective meter reading. So that means that I don't aim it here at the camera. That's an instant meter reading. I aim it at the light sources that I want to correct. So on a 30-degree angle, roughly, at an appropriate distance, I'm not sure what an appropriate distance is. As close as you can get to your light source, you're going to get a better reading. If I look, as I'm a long ways away from it here, but it's all the same source back there, it's going to give me a decent reading. So I point this back at my light source. I get 42, well, it's like 41, almost 40, it's 4190 or 4185. So you're not going to be able to get that. You're going to go to 42. So I know at 42 that I've got, that's my color balance in the background. So I just simply set my camera on 4200 degrees. I then set this light, because it's a bicolor at 4200 degrees, and everything's going to match and it's going to look fabulous. I mean, it is that simple. Now, if I'm concerned about the lights in here, if I have a bunch of different ones, I can walk around and meter all of them and start to give myself an idea of what's kind of the average in the room. But because it is pretty consistent, most of what I see back there is all in that 4200 range. They're all the same light bulb. I don't have to worry about whether it's fluorescent. I don't have to worry about whether it's incandescent. It doesn't matter to me. I aim the CV600 at it, my light meter, I take a reading, and it says the color temperature is just under 4200 degrees. So I'm going to go with 4200 degrees. Set my camera at 4200 degrees, and it gave me a great look. That's the way we set this up here. It was very, very simple. So that's the easiest way to make this happen on set. You've got a bicolor light, take a color temperature reading, match your light to the color temperature, and you're good to go. So that's done in your basic, under your CCT mode in the CV600. That just gives you your basic color temperature on set. The second way is extremely important to know, because if you don't necessarily know the color of your key light, if you don't necessarily know what kind of lights you're using, you're going to use mixed lights, this makes it so that you can match them very easily by using gels on the light. But this is going to tell me exactly what gel I need very simply. So I've taken a color meter reading already. I know that I've got a color temperature in the background about 4200 degrees. So if I simply go to my meter under filter and I say, I want my target to be 4200 degrees, so I'm going to type in 4200 degrees, hit OK. That means I want my temperature here to be at 4200 degrees, because that's what I'm putting my camera on. So Kate's going to change the color temperature on this light, and I won't know what it's set at. So I'm going to come over to my light source. If I don't know what this, and I don't know what this light source is, although it looks pretty warm, but if I don't know what this light source is, or if you're not used to using it, or who knows what the situation is, your key light, and you want to match it to 4200 degrees, if I take into a reading right here, the problem is I'm on a 30-degree angle, kind of, but I'm also going to be seeing a bunch of other stuff. So I just turn this thing down, I get myself underneath it, so I feel pretty comfortable that I'm just getting light from that. And it tells me that if I want to correct this, and I've already put in that I'm going to use the Rosco Cinegels, so I've put that into the meter, so the meter's going to tell me what Cinegel I need to correct that light to make it 4200 degrees. and I look at it and it says a 3203. Well, what's a 3203? Well, I pick out my rusty Cinegels, and obviously we know what a 3203 is, and that is it's a blue. So a 3203 is a 3/4 CTB, and that's what I need to be able to clean that light up. So I throw that on there, and I'm now at 4200 degrees. I can set my camera at 4200 degrees, and off we go. This works in any situation. You're color balancing to your background or the lights in the room that you can't change, and you're changing the lights that you can. Now we could do this the opposite way. I could say, well, this is 5300 degrees, and I'm now going to daylight. I'm going to now balance all these lights in this room to daylight. So now I take a meter reading on those. I want it to be 5200 degrees or 5300 degrees, and it tells me I have to have two gels, a 3206, which is a 1/3, and a 3216, which is a 1/8. So that tells me the two gels that I'd have to put on every one of those lights to get that entire background to match 5300 degrees. But that's too much work. It's just a lot easier to say we're going to shoot at 4200 degrees. I'm going to match my key light and my rim light to 4200 degrees by putting that 3/4 CTB on it, and now I'm ready to rock and roll. So let's take a look at a section of the interview we shot with Wilbur. We've got that nice color here because of using our meter, but let's hear what he has to say.
Oh, you could be a gunner if you want. And so I wanted to fly, so what's the next thing to do? I signed up for gunnery. And I ended up there after radio school. That was the most fun I ever had. I wanted to flunk it and take it over and take it over and take it over. You had to learn to take that gun apart and put it back together blindfolded. Everybody was worried about that, along with me.
You should have one of these.
I'm convinced.
You ready? So it's been great to be here at Plains of Fame. It's great to be here with Wilbur. I think Wilbur's already fallen asleep on us. We've been working him too hard. Using the CV600 made this a lot easier for us. We chose those two different ways to balance our color. So check those out at our affiliate links, both at B&H and at Amazon. It's a great place to pick up a color meter if that's something that really works for what you're doing. If you shoot a lot of interviews and you're shooting run and gun, it's worth using it because it gives you a quick way to kind of calibrate and get on with your shot. So keep those cameras rolling, keep on clicking. We have a free business coaching class on September 28th at 5 p.m. You don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to put your suit on. Come in your jammies and turn on the computer. We're going to teach you the daily routines for success. It's going to help you grow your business. That one call, just go to theslanted.com and sign up today. Don't miss out. You're going to love this call.
Subscribe to join with the camera and view what it does and see what it can do to be better than usual.
That sounds like he wants us to subscribe to the Slanted Lens.
Oh, Slanted Lens.
Yeah, that's the name of our channel, The Slanted Lens.
Never heard of that.
That kills me, Wilbur.